Well, you referenced the solar example there, and I appreciate that. Are there any other kind of jobs to be done that you've really picked up on in your time there that maybe Gallagher is currently trying to address for local customers or customers around the world?
Yeah. So we've got the whole pasture measurement area. So what we've seen over the last years is the increased need to also automate pasture measurement. So we support a lot of farmers that run pastoral systems. So in New Zealand, in Australia, most of the animals are outside, they're grass fed. So we've got highly intensive pastoral grazing systems. And in that, the your grass, getting on top of your grass, knowing how much grass you have, where feed you have, is really important. Farmers here in New Zealand, they actually walk their paddocks with a plate meter to see how much grass they have. They move their animals around depending on how much grass they have. That is a need that we identified really strongly, and we started looking specifically for ways on how we could make that easier for our farming community. How can we automate that? And there's some technology out there, but nothing was really fully reliable and automated until our eye fell on this technology called Farmote out of Christchurch in New Zealand that connects the ground truthing. So you have motes in the ground that look at the local grass height, but then connecting that in with satellite imagery to be able to translate that to the whole of your farm. So you look on the ground what your grass looks like, and then you check in with your satellite imagery and you translate that to grass height across the farm. That was new. That was very novel because we had a lot of pasture measurement tools that were only on the ground that you just need to walk or only satellite. But if you have a lot of cloud cover, you don't get any data of what's happening on the ground. So that connection between satellite and ground truthing was new. We picked that up. We made an investment. Another company called Barenbrug, a seed company headquartered in Europe, in the Netherlands, also saw a lot of use for that. They had made an investment. And so we were working very closely together, trying to support that startup company to really try and scale and do better. Unfortunately, the founder didn't quite get there. The company didn't make it. And so Barbara and ourselves, we decided we were going to pick up the assets, put those assets into a new joint venture between Barenbrug and us. And we're now actively developing that technology first for Europe and for New Zealand. But we know that there will be, again, like with the solar energizer, there will be applications in other countries around the world for that technology. And so that's another example of, okay, we know it's a job to be done. We know it's not being, let's see if we can proactively go and find something, get it ready, scale it, and then see if we can actually take that to other countries around the world where they have that need.
And is that joint venture operating under the Farmote name, or what name is that going to be under? Yep.
So it's going to operate under the name Farmote Technologies. Mm-hmm. So we are setting that up. In first instance, we are doing trials because actually the technology is not ready to commercialize. We have it on a number of farms, so we've taken those farms over, but we are treating them more like trial sites. We'll get alongside those customers. I think we've got it on 6 or 7 farms in New Zealand. We've got it on a number of farms, 25, 26 in Europe. We'll wrap ourselves around those customers as we always do. We'll learn a lot. We'll provide a lot of support with the idea of making the technology better, making it scalable. And then when we're done with that, we'll do the commercial rollout. It's one of those startup companies that probably tried to run before they could walk. And so we've done these things many times before. We know how to scale technology. Another example is eShepherd. We fully acquired the virtual fencing technology from a company called Atchison's in Australia. We owned 50% of that startup company. We then took the 100%, so it's 100% us now. But we've done the same thing. We've rolled that back and really re-looked at the technology and made it fit for purpose. We redesigned the whole thing before we then lean in and scale. So we're at the scaling stage, but we bought it 3.5 years ago fully. We had been involved years before that. But what we saw when we acquired it fully and we looked really fully under the hood, we saw, look, the technology is not reliable enough. The hardware needs to be redesigned. The software needs to be redesigned. We've done that over the last 3 years, and now we know it works. We've done lots of beta trials in the last year. It is reliable. It is solid. And now we're scaling. So sometimes you need to walk back a little bit in order to actually accelerate and launch commercially and not disappoint a whole lot of people in the market, because a lot of the virtual fencing companies as well, they've launched it with a lot of big, a lot of big poo-ha, and we're going to take this on. But look, if your hardware is not reliable, you might have a nice software system, but if your hardware is not moisture proof, breaks, doesn't have the power autonomy, causes issues on animals, you don't really have a product. You might have a nice software platform, but the hardware on farm, that's where it all starts. I mean, it's a harsh environment. If it doesn't withstand being on an animal out in your paddock or on your ranch for lengths of time, you don't really have a product. And so that's where we come in with our 85 years of experience. We know what farm life is like, like our energizers, they can be driven over by a tractor and still work. So we know what resilience is. We know what power autonomy, all of these things we understand. So that's often what we do. We walk it back, we make sure it's robust, it's reliable, ready to scale, and then we go again. And that's what we've done with virtual fencing as well.